Toka Wingwa. I'm the governance manager here at Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote.
Community board member for Heathcote.
Kia ora, I'm Melanie Coker, I'm a councillor for Spreydon.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Will Hall, community board member for Heathcote.
Cool. Heather? Cool. We've got any council staff in the gallery as well? Tony? Cool. That's it. Thanks. Cool, thank you. Thanks. Kia?
Kia ora, Keir Leslie, Cashmere Ward Community Board member.
Kia ora, ana, Roy Keneally, community board member for Spreydon.
Kia ora koutou, Sarah Templeton, councillor for the Heathcote Ward.
Kia ora and welcome. I'm Tim Scandred. I'm the councillor for Kashmir.
Kia ora, Jane Walters, community board advisor.
Excellent, thanks very much. And Lee?
Kia ora koutou, Lee Sumpson. Kia ora koutou, Lee Sumpson, community board member based in Kashmir.
Great, heard that loud and clear. Thanks, Lee. Cool.
Perfect. I'll just quickly flag, I haven't got a visual link of you at the moment. I can't visually see you. I don't know if there's a problem with the camera there, but I'm missing my cues because I can't see you guys. There you go.
Sure. Oh, we'll work our way down in the background. Oh, perfect. Thanks. Problem solved. Can you see us now, Lee?
Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. You don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, but yeah. Cool. So have we got any apologies today? I've not received any. Cool. Any declarations of interest? Anyone stand to gain or lose anything from decisions we make here today? No. Can I get a mover for confirmation of previous minutes? Tim? I'll be happy to second that. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Great. Thanks. Cool. So now we're coming to public forum, Te Huinga Whanui. So just a reminder that, that this meeting's being live streamed and to use the microphones. So this is the garden development in the community. Is it Narayani? Yeah. Do you, actually, maybe if all of you come up to the table and just sit in these three chairs here, and we can hear what you've got to tell us.
Do you have to do the thing to make this go?
Cool. Did you have a presentation? PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh,
yes.
Grace is figuring that out. Cool.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Narayani Tiwari. I am the member of charity organization Support for Development New Zealand and Hillary Tenzing Trust New Zealand. So here in Christchurch, I'm working with the Asian migrant communities, especially with the women group, and I have a sister for sister organization group working together with them, and we have a project. English class for migrant women and swimming class for migrant women, also a bicycle riding class for migrant women. That activities is running in the at the moment. So For next, we planning to go for the green development like garden and then plantation. So Dr. Yadav is organizing the plantation proposal, and then Dr. Pandey is just giving the idea for the park management, garden and park management. So he is just talking about the plantation, vegetation, nursery management, and then medicinal herbal plant, ornamental plant, and then compost fertilizer with the demonstration, landscape, whatever waste management inside the garden. So he will talk more about the presentation in his presentation, and Dr. Bhagwan is talking about the project. We're looking for the land, and we already talked with the community in the Aron community. So whatever we want to do, the plantation and the garden park management, we just want to have a help with this community, and we want to work together further with this community, happily working together. Thank you very much. So Dr. Yadav, 2 minutes maybe.
Thank you. And if you need to change slides, just let Grace know. She can change the slide for you as well.
Actually, with the slide, I'll go first, maybe
Oh,
that
yeah.
make more easier. I'll talk 2 minutes. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Tara. We're just talking about more garden hops in the park, and the back had a small culture garden in the back. This is our team. Would you please go to the next slide? It's more support for development. I already told. Go next slide, please. And this is the national policy here in New Zealand, local, and we say more. We know all these. Let's go to the next slide, please. Actually, we are learning. Our learning is inspired by government policy and also Christchurch City Council connections and meetings with Shara Templeton a couple of times in the City Council as well, and also Roy Mata would come. Commons to run an eco park. So it's our focus. Yes, please go next. Next, please. Next. Actually, there are so many. We are more focusing on eco health adventure park (EHAP), characterized by these values. Actually, would be a better collaboration, high level communication, strong relationship, health and well-being. Actually, a learning center for all age groups, creative and experiment with new techniques, publication and dissemination of information and data, sustainability stuff. Thank you. Next, please. This is the key thing we want to create garden hub in the park and back here, and in those 5 components: indigenous trees, fruit trees, vegetables, medicinal and herbal plants, ornamental plants, and they connected by landscaping, compost pit, and composting facility for fertilizer soil. Thank you. And what we have established organization, team of experts, localized knowledge and skills. What we need is suitable park, residential community in close proximity, collaborating organization, funding source. So we'll further discuss in later. Thank you, Nami. And about plantation, you will talk a minute. Thank you.
Sorry, I have no any slide. Just I would like to talk, but I have paper. If anybody need it, then I can give the paper. Just I would like to talk about the community plantations, where there is involved the community people, Aron community people, in the plantation activities. Even in the clearing of the site to plantations, and the aim of the plantation is to involve those local people, local community, for the socialize so that they can develop the fruit trees and ornamental plant and the site plant, so that they can get the good environment, and they can got some fruits and trees from there. And the main aim of this plantation is they can themselves handle all the things, from protection to establishment and then harvesting. And they also manage the sometimes if there is a lot of fruit, then they can manage with the community, and the community can, if a lot, then community can sell to the local outside people or like that. So these are the things we are looking for the fund. We have no fund. We prepared some years ago, 1 year ago, there's something I visited the site, but we needed a little bit more space. I mean, the more land. So if we can get a little bit more land, then that will be better, I think so. Thank you.
Thanks very much. No, that's really, and you've got so much information that's hard to condense it down into 5 minutes, and I understand the challenge there. So you've done really well, and it's really clear
Thank
that what
you.
the ask
Thank
is. And we've also got the presentation as well to see you sent through, so we can read that after in our own time. So a question from me is, in terms of a suitable place that you're looking for, have you got any preferences in terms of which part of the city? Is it?
We're looking for a area where there can be an educational hub, for the schools and access to schools and communities and other groups. So an irrigation facility, a bit of watering, and for composting and stuff. So kind of a park where we can, we don't mind the land slopes. Can be a gentle slope or flat land, but anywhere accessible, like 20 to 30 minutes drive, around. So yeah,
cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions from the board? Jim?
Could we look at the available land from the, I know we're looking at a few areas with regards to what was red zoned, and we've got a bit of a cushion now in between those. So there could be an opportunity there.
Yep.
Because we've got, just Bowen Vale that comes to mind. There's a couple there and others.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. No, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll ask staff for some advice about what options could be out there, and particularly looking at red zone land where we're having a lot of discussion at the moment. Yeah. No, Mihi, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we're moving on to deputations. So this is where people can come to the board to speak about issues that are on the board's agenda today. So we've got a few presentations about the proposed bus stop markings in Duncan Street. I'll just remind, I'll invite you up one by one, and I'll remind you that everything that you're saying is recorded, and it's helpful if you can make sure the mic's pointed at your mouth and turned on. So first up, we've got Sarah Kerr. Yep, do you want to come join us at the table?
Maybe a little bit short for the mic, but
oh, gotcha. It's flexible. It's flexible. Yeah. Cool.
No, just like get it done. Come on.
And you got 5 minutes, but take your time to get set up if you need notes and everything.
Thank you for letting me
10,
talk.
sorry.
You good?
Yep, my apologies. Yeah, no, you got 10 minutes.
Thank you for letting me talk to you about changing the Duncan Street bus stops. I strongly believe this should happen because I'm a regular bus user, and the bus stops, as they are at the moment, have greatly affected my independence and caused 2 moderate injuries. I am not trying to make other people's lives difficult. I'm trying to get my own independence back and make busing safer for me and other people who may use the bus stops. My independence has been affected because the problems with the bus are very common, e.g. the kneeler not working. Due to being in a wheelchair, I think it's an unsafe situation to take on by myself. This means I've had to call my mum to come and get me off the bus. When the kneeler is working, I get off in the village because I have to get off the bus in a safe manner. This means I have to push 10 minutes home from the village. I can ask Mum to come and get me from the village, but again, this affects my independence. I have had 2 moderate injuries as a result of the bus stops as they are now. The first was a concussion. What caused it was because the bus couldn't get close enough into the curb. The ramp was steep. This caused my wheelchair to tip over backwards, and I hit my head on the pavement. Due to hydrocephalus, I have a VP shunt inserted. The point of impact on the pavement was exactly where the shunt is. This meant I had to go in an ambulance to hospital to make sure I hadn't damaged my shunt. My second injury meant I had to be off work for 6 weeks. There were cars parked in front of and behind the bus stop, so the bus had to park on the road. I had already rung Mum for help due to the kneeler not working. The combination of the kneeler not working and the bus having to park on the road meant that the ramp was at 45 degrees. The steepness of the ramp caused my feet to get caught in the road. And because Mum couldn't see that my feet had got caught, she carried on helping me down the ramp. This caused my shoulder to be wrenched and caused shoulder impingement and frozen shoulder. Sometimes the ramp has been steep, but because I don't have binocular vision, I haven't picked up that it's steep. If this happens, I end up having to let myself fall out of my wheelchair and land on the concrete with a heavy thud. Even if I don't get injured, I still end up so stiff, I can't work the next day. This is because as well as my muscles being tight, they are being tensed up trying to hold me in the wheelchair, and when I hit the concrete, they get jarred. In conclusion, if the bus stops were to be changed, I believe it would be safer for all bus users and allow me to have my independence.
Really appreciate you coming here today to tell us those stories, Sarah. That's the kind of thing that's really important that we hear. And I really just want to commend you for coming along and thank you for sharing. And I'm sure we'll have questions from the board as well. Sarah?
Thanks so much, Sarah, and apologies that this has taken so long. When it comes to there's option 1, which is the recommended. There was also an option 2. Did you have a preference between those?
I would choose option 1 simply because at the bus stop as it is, if it just has a rectangular box,
yeah,
the bus can't get into the curb because there just isn't the room. So if it has the lines, the bus can come in and get nicely into the curb so that the ramp is flat on the pavement and not steep. Yeah. Because it's incredibly difficult to hold a wheelchair on a steep ramp in a safe manner.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you. And thank you for coming in.
Any other questions from the board? No, I think what you've said, speaks for itself really. And I'm really sorry that that's happened to you. And hope that won't happen to you in the future, and hope that we can make a decision here today that makes things safer for you.
I mean, I'm looking for a solution here, not to make other people's lives harder, trying to make my own easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and get your independence back. Yeah.
Because mum's got a husband who needs basically full-time care. So if I need help, she can't help him.
No, it's lots of impacts. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Sarah. So next up we have Jamie Cummings and Lucy Blackmore, local residents. Yep, so just feel free to take a seat, and have you got a presentation as well?
I do.
Right. So just be a moment.
All right. I'm kia ora, community board members, council staff and facilitators. Thank you for your time today and allowing us to present. And thank you, Sarah, for your story earlier. Safety is important. At the top, I'd just like to declare just a conflict of interest, but due process has been followed here today. My wife is Lucy Blackmore, and she's a council staff member. But I don't think there'll be a problem. Second slide. It's trying to be clever. Firstly, sorry about the crude slide deck. My wife and I have got 3 young children, so it's a bit rough and rushed, but I did the best I could. But I just want to quickly outline what I want to talk today. So just an overview of our house on the street and the adjacent bus stop. Talk about the options 1 and 2 and how they impact us. Just some observations on the vehicle movements on our street, the current state of those vehicle movements, and then the safety concerns we have, and some safety observations around the street. So next slide, please. So we're at 5 Duncan Street. There is a bus stop directly outside of our house. It appears that peak usage is from in the mornings, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. It is busy during that time, and then throughout the day on the other side of the street and on our side of the street, it's less peakish. The demographics of our area appear to be primarily retirees and families. Directly across from us, we've got Peter and Helen, who are retirees but support 3 grandchildren daily doing school drop-offs to the local school and daycare. Next slide, please. So the options that you would have read in the agenda pack, effectively, they appear to remove a lot of the off-street parking down Duncan Street. It is a busy street with a number of resident vehicles, so parking is at a premium, and our properties are as such that they don't have many driveways to take those vehicles off the road. So the option 1 and option 2, and there was an option 3 of do nothing. Next slide. So this is crudely put together, but my observation. So I went and checked the timetable bus services. There's 180 scheduled bus vehicle, metro vehicle movements through those bus stops, excluding school services. There is, and I've made some assumptions here, there's 13 houses along Duncan Street. I'm assuming two vehicles per house and 2 movements per day. So 52 vehicle movements, and then accrued, but I feel it's appropriate, 3 times resident movements for 150 through thoroughfare vehicle movements. So the top line item of 180 that's factual. We've got 180 bus movements through that street, so it is a lot, but I'm not disputing the frequency of the service that needs to be there. It is a good service. So next slide. I think, so we're here today about safety, and we just heard Sarah's harrowing story, and I do have some follow-up questions after hearing that for the first time. But with the changes to the street, I won't read this line by line, by the way, it's going to make off-street parking at a premium, and residents are going to be forced to find a park, and there will be occasions where you will have to park on the other side of the street. With young children, elderly around, if they're forced to cross the street on a more frequent basis, there is an issue that they'll be struck by a vehicle movement, metro or thoroughfare. My worry is that in the event that Sarah's had an incident there, and it is grave and falling like that has disastrous effects, but someone being struck by a bus has very serious effects. I just think of a scenario where my wife gets home from work, she's really busy, she's got arms full of school bags and groceries, she's got 3 kids. If she has a lapse of attention and my 2-year-old runs across the road, she's struck by a bus, that's outcome I can't imagine. So I'm really worried that these changes could materially affect the street. So it's sort of one safety situation where this is another safety situation. And page 20 of the agenda has the matrix of of the suburban parking policy. Number one is safety. And we're sort of comparing two different safety elements. And we've observed a new safety situation and we're creating a new safety risk. So I just think it needs to be considered in full what the impacts of these changes are. And I don't feel like they have been fully fleshed out with all risks considered. Yeah, and options going forward, I think option 3, doing nothing, is our preferred option, but my worry there, I didn't realize Sarah had so much difficulty with buses kneeling. It seems like get that fixed. Get that fixed yesterday. That's a whole city problem. But yeah, that's about all I've got to say today.
Well, appreciate you coming along, Jamie. And you're right, none of the decisions we make here are without trade-offs. So yeah, thanks you for your presentation. Are there any questions from the board, Tim?
Yeah, just want to clarify, we have nothing to do with buses whatsoever with regards to the equality, etc. We got shafted, I believe, by ECAN some time ago, and so I'm putting it, straight up. So, and I totally agree with you with regards to that. You mentioned the speed of traffic going through Duncan Street. Is that coming off the main road?
Yeah, thanks to it's coming off Wakefield, and so that's 50 k's, and they sort of hook in there, and they don't really slow down until they get down to the park.
Yep.
So they're flying. Even the buses, they're flying.
We've got two areas in our ward which we've changed. We had one with the roundabout on Wilson's Road with St Martin's Scholars, and cars going one way would just look right and swing round and hardly slow down for school children. It's for anybody. And the other one is this one up here, the Cashmere one, with regards to cars travelling east, coming along Centaurus Road, and it's a curve. You probably through it, they don't even look left anymore. They just look right, and they don't slow down because if there's no cars coming, and so whoever's stepping onto the road. So we've put humps in the road, the bolt-on ones, which are far more cost-effective than ripping up the road, which is actually very effective. Would you be open to us talking to staff about those options, just as a general issue with speed?
Potentially. I do have worries about just crossing the road that frequently. All of a sudden, if my children are crossing the road every day, they're still exposed to vehicle movements where they're otherwise just avoided completely now. But we do need a solution with the safety focus that does meet Sarah's needs. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Sarah?
Thanks. And as Callum said, there's always trade-offs in any of these things. Do you have off-street parking?
Yeah, we've currently got one park, but that will be removed in the proposals.
Off-street though, on your property?
Sorry, just one.
Yeah. So if we went ahead with the current recommended option, is it possible for you to organise your family stuff so that your wife's car and the kids' stuff is always in the driveway so they don't ever have to cross the road?
Not
and
really.
Then
it's an electric car, so we need to charge.
Oh, but so it's in the garage or?
No, it's outside, but it needs in off-street parking to charge every day. And my wife doesn't drive the electric car. I've got the electric car.
Okay, so you're not able to organise your family to?
So
differently.
Yeah, it would be challenging because she can't drive my car because it's a work vehicle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But okay. So but you can understand our dilemma here where it's a proven safety issue currently for a member of your community who is really struggling and has been injured. Yeah,
I can, but I just worry that it's creating a new safety issue. It just takes a second for my wife to lose focus, and I've got a 2-year-old running across the road.
Oh, and you're talking to a mother of twins that were toddlers at one point, so I get that completely.
Yeah, and at the moment there's no problem with it. We have no safety issues. We're not concerned, but this did concern us, these changes.
Okay, so do you currently manage to always find a park outside your house?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thanks your presentation, Jamie. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Cheers.
That's well organised. So next up, we've got Lisa Headfield. Is it? Welcome, Lisa. And again, just make sure the mic's on and pointed at your mouth, and we'll be able to hear you well.
Sorry, I'm not very good at Maori language, so please don't be offended. But so I think it's Coco. Oh, I can't do it. Sorry, I'm not very good with language.
Oh, look, you're not looking at a group of experts here, so.
But I would normally. But welcome. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. Just want to say one thing. I have the bulletins to go up as well. But what's interesting is that I have not spoken to Sarah. I have not spoken to Jamie, and yet we all have the same feeling. Isn't that interesting? We have not communicated between any of us. I spoke to Helen and Peter yesterday. Helen and wasn't able to drop anything off to Jane, but she has 2 submissions. She's been on the phone to me, and Peter has just had to go in A&E. She brought up a really interesting thing that if this option goes ahead, where's the ambulance going to come in and pick them up? Because there's going to be the street parking is going to be so dense if these options go up. So just a thought from Helen. She has 2, she has her submissions, which she would try and get to Jane and again pass on to you guys. So if we can have up, Jane, can it go up, please?
I'm just working on it.
Is it probably playing up?
Yeah, it's playing
Can't
up.
find it. It's so small, I actually can't find the thing that makes it bigger.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just go over it then. So within my 10 minutes. So several families have no off-street parking, as Jamie said. I have no off-street parking. I'm a shared driveway, so I can put 1 car up the driveway, but I have to be courteous to them because it'll block their way in. It reduces the street parking, which will directly impact us. As it is, there is Helen and Peter with their small grandchildren. There's our lovely neighbour across the road with his 3 small energetic ones. And I have a 2.5-year-old that lives in the house with me, with my daughter and son. So again, the safety of bringing them out of the cars, where we're going to park. So then also the house to my right is a volunteer fire brigade lady who they've parked their cars out the front. He's had lots of stone chips because of the road being in such a bad way. Again, this is what Peter's very upset about. And so their driveway is up and to a right-hand degree. It's a shared driveway as well. So for when the alarm goes off, she will have to run out, open the gate, unlock the gate, open it, and then head on out to the fire. So I think that's a little bit of a concern. They felt there was no point coming because they just feel the council's going to go ahead. But that's their words, quote. So with Sarah's situation, the camera of the road outside 8B Duncan Street is really high. And it's quite interesting, but it's got a huge campus. I tried to take photos. It's not really worth it. So when any bus comes into there, it actually has such a high, and that's part of the reason why she fell. It's one of the factors that came into it. So with my proposal, what I would like to propose is that the bus stop outside 8B Duncan Street be removed, and the one that was around the head of Waihoro Ave be reinstated. That is a flat, easy access. If Sarah disengages herself off the bus there, she has a downhill run to her house. When she's in the township, she has an uphill run to her house. I've lived in 18 years in Duncan Street in the same house and my whole life. Sarah, I've known since she's 4. So that needs to be considered. So I would propose that the bus stop is taken away. The bus stop on the north side to be moved right down to the corner where Campbell Street is, which would if you bring in a nice smooth roll in, it rolls out nicely. Cliff, who is there's a full fence and then Cliff's sold, so it's not going to be any worry to him. There's 2 Aucklanders coming down. It has been right. He's put a submission in, but he does not need to. There's no reason for him to be here today because he's moving. But there's a young couple coming down from Auckland. We don't know how many cars they've got. They've got a tiny garage. You cannot get a car in. A little bit like his garage. You cannot get a car in it. They're really small. So there'll be 1 street off parking and another car coming into that. So I feel just with nutting it out and living their own lives. I've been on the phone with Nicola at the top. I was at school with Nicola. So, which is my age. And she says, the buses make a lot of rattle noise. They don't often stop. I have a partner that's been a bus driver 4 years, and I got on the phone. I checked him out last night, and he said, we don't often stop. Also, bus drivers are allowed to stop anywhere that is going to be safe to the passenger. So even though that it can be a marked bus stop, often you will see a bus driver stop somewhere where it is safer for the passenger coming off. So these are factors.
Sorry, Sarah, I'll just
Yeah.
ask that Helen has, at least
So,
sorry,
yeah.
has time to speak.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors. The other thing is I walked out one day and there's these two lovely gentlemen on the side of the road trying to feel the movement of the buses. And I'm the second house back. My house is like a 3.2 when a bus goes by. When it hits the right part of the road down the lower part, it just, ding, 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 ding. I've got all my ornaments put away at the moment because I'm painting. And so when they come out, they're going to go, Peter and Helen. Peter's beside himself. Like you can't, I pulled him out and he spoke with, and I said, Peter, come and have a talk to these guys. And he was shaking. He's tired of the shaking of his house. And he feels that the rates that they pay shouldn't actually be detrimental to their house that's on piles. So that's really it for me. I really do feel there is a solution. I don't want to sound like a dictator in this, but I feel that there is definitely room for this proposal of my option A to really be a workable a workable solution.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Lisa, and thanks for coming along with a suggested alternative and constructive ideas. Sorry, not at the moment. What we're going to do now is have questions from the board for Lisa.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Just to clarify, so if I'm looking at option 1,
yeah,
you're saying on the south side of Duncan Street,
yes,
you would like the stop to be as far or as close to Wakefield Ave as possible. Is that correct?
No, removed.
Removed totally.
Yes.
Okay.
And the bus stop, there's another, and then
put on Wakefield.
it was already there.
Okay,
it was there. It's still on map. It's still on Google Map.
And the one on the north.
Yes, the north side, outside Jamie's house.
As so that one on the north side, you would prefer to be as close as
Campbell Street as possible.
So,
yes.
Okay.
And that also, it's a back fence. It's a whole fence. They took their garage. They had an access gate. They've closed it off. So there's no stopping any access into their property. They've taken their access completely to the other side.
So to clarify,
it will not hinder anyone.
The south side stop is left on Wakefield, and the
Yes.
north side, which is in front of Jamie's, goes as far to Duncan as
Yes, and that I feel would give a lot. It would help the volunteer fire brigade lady. It would help us with our small child. It would also help Peter with their grandchildren and Helen, and also these hilarious 3 little monkeys that live across the road. Just so sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And thanks for, obviously you've got a very rich knowledge of your street, Lisa, and the people that live there. So appreciate that.
Yeah, all my life in Sumner.
Yeah. I also do want to say as well that when we make decisions like this, we don't, we're making them for the very long term. And so if we do make a given decision, it won't be a decision for Sarah or for yourself or for Jamie. It's going to be for everybody on the street, and including people that don't live there yet.
But still, it would still, as you can see.
Yeah, those things are illustrative. Yes, it is helpful. Yeah, thank you.
But if you can see, it's unanimous for the amount of people who have not even spoken to each other and turned up today. Sorry, Sarah.
One quick question from Sarah.
One quick question. So I know you're concerned about the number of cars that are sometimes parked on the street there, and not knowing if people have got more cars that are coming from Auckland
and
stuff,
visitors and
visitors and things.
And tradespeople.
Is the street ever completely parked out?
Quite often, yes.
Excluding events and those kind of things and school stuff, like just normal
3/4.
residents.
Yeah, definitely easily 3/4.
3/4.
Yes.
But yeah.
So we're quite at maximum. So when you take these ones away, you take the impact on our lives is going to be really annoying.
So what I see when I look at some of the photos that are from various satellite things, I see quite a few cars on street, but not cars parked up driveways. And I'm wondering why you think some of your neighbours don't use their driveways.
Well, they could have been at work. What time was the photo taken?
I'm just saying I can see some on the street. That's all.
There's a lot more parking goes on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I went through Helen, so Jody parks 2 cars on the street. She's the first house on the south side. Peter, they have a garage, so they're not so bad. But then the next house is going to have one. They've changed there, and they're getting a garage put in, so they'll have a garage to drive the car in. They're a 1-car house. Then there's me, so I have 2 cars. I'm sorry to say, and then there's the front house has 2. And then there's actually 5 cars in just 8B and 8A Duncan Street. The next house has 2 cars. Up the driveway, they have off-street parking. That would be the only one with off-street parking. The next house on the corner has off-street parking. I don't know if they use it. They have 3 cars in front of their house every day, with those, morning and evening. During the day, it's a bit flexible. On the other side, Nicola's got 3 or 4 cars. She has some off-street parking as well. Then you've got the next house, which is a retired couple, and they also have off-street parking. They're a little bit more inclined to be off-street parking, being retired 1 car. Then you've got Jamie, who's got 2 cars. The electric car has to be out the driveway. And then the other car with the family car that she drives is parked outside. Then you've got Cliff's house. So then he's there, and that has one off-street parking. And then you've got Cliff who would park, and there's a double unit. There's a unit in that house, and that's it. And then there's freedom to park other things further up. So I'm sorry, the satellite picture, it depends on when it was taken.
No, it's good to know. Thanks.
Question from, oh no, you sweet, yeah, thanks.
Have I worn you out? Sorry.
But you've blown us away with your local knowledge, so
Oh,
really appreciate
and
that.
I took some breath in between.
Thanks for your time
Thank
and
you.
your presentation. So have we got correspondence from Helen yet? Okay, all right. No worries. Yeah, we'll distribute it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the report itself. Got Tony and Mansoor. Did you guys want to come up and join the table? Did you have a presentation as well, or just cool? Maybe we'll keep the lights on. Cool. Yeah, so we have all read the report, but yeah, just hitting the highlights, I guess, would be good for people watching from the public as well, would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, so I'll just summarise. So yeah, we're recommending that the bus stops be marked in their existing locations. So currently it's legal to park within 6 metres either side of a bus stop sign. So they're not marked at the moment. So that's 12 metres, which isn't enough space for a bus to pull in, stop parallel to the curb when there's cars parked around it. So we're proposing to mark in accordance with the Council's construction standard, which is a bus box and no stopping restrictions on each side. So we did consult originally on this proposal late last year. There was a bit of discussion about alternative locations. So we sought to investigate that and consequently put it on hold until this year when we consulted again on the second option you can see in the report. So there was a bit of opposition to relocating it further down the street, and it was similar to what we've had from residents outside the current bus stops about loss of parking, etc. And also with that other location, it's further away from where people are generally going. So we've had feedback that they're walking more towards Campbell Street, but currently the bus stop's located pretty much halfway between the other 2 paired bus stops on this route. So yeah, the proposal is for the current location. There's also existing infrastructure in place, so hard stand areas and a bus stop on the north side. So yeah, I'd just like to make a comment about buses being able to stop anywhere. We have the hard stand areas at the bus stops so that people can safely get on and off them more easily, which is where these ones will be proposed to be marked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. We've got any questions from the board? Keir?
Yeah, so I guess just in general terms, a question about road space. Obviously, road space has a range of competing uses where we have to balance different, different concerns around safety, around, at the end of the day, road space is public space and it's not owned by any individual who may have a street frontage fronting that. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, that's correct. And we always consider safety in the parking policy. It's quite clear, though, that public transport is ranked a lot higher than residential parking. So that's consider in these locations.
Okay. Sarah?
We can just talk about the parking policy a little bit more detail, I guess, to help people understand why in residential areas we go, so safety, that's like you wouldn't want parking on a corner and those kind of things. Movement and amenity, mobility parking, then bus stops, and then residence parking. So why is it in that order? And how broadly did we consult on that before the decision was made to put that in?
I don't know too much about the consultation on the policy. It was slightly before my time, but I think it's a wider public service, the bus route. So as Keir said, it's not an individual's own space outside the front of their house. It's more for the wider network, and we're trying to encourage public transport use, make it a safe option. So we need to make sure that if we have designated bus stops, that the buses can access them safely.
And did you look more broadly, and for example, a suggestion to move a bus stop actually off Duncan Street together and just use Wakefield Ave?
We didn't look too much at that. There is another bus stop further down Wakefield Ave, another paired bus stop. But this location, as I said, is halfway between the current piers. It's about 300 metres away from the one either side. So location-wise, it's quite well suited to the area.
And when it comes to parking, actually the words disappeared from my head, capacity on the street. So what's the, how, do you know how often it's kind of full and those kind of things of people being parked and stuff? I don't know, sometimes when there's events on and stuff nearby.
Yeah, not specifically. I've been out there quite a lot during the day and it hasn't been that parked out, but acknowledge that in the weekends it's probably higher. This proposal, when you consider what's already, the 12 metres vehicles are already not supposed to park in, it removes up to about 5 spaces on the street. So approximately 3 on the north and 2 on the south.
Okay, thanks.
And did you look at all into the option of relocating the bus stop on the north side further towards Campbell Street as per that last suggestion from the deputy?
It wasn't specifically consulted on. We anticipate there'll probably be similar pushback for that location, but it's also getting nearer the intersection. And if it was to be relocated there, we would have to relocate the other one because we can't have them side by side on street for safety reasons. If a bus pulls up, you've got people both trying to pass them at once. So that's a bit of a risk we try to avoid.
Lee, did you have any questions? Just so I remember you there, sorry.
In short, no.
Cool. Okay, thanks. Right, look, yeah, this is one of those really tricky ones, to be honest. There's a lot of trade-offs here, and it's trade-offs, in terms of health and safety, utility, and all those things. And we know that above all, we do have to prioritise health and safety of our road users. Sorry, Kia, was that a question? Oh. Okay, you happy to move? Yep. Okay, Kia's happy to move, and Tim? Okay, well, we don't have a second yet, so yep.
Thank you. With the suggestion on the north side of getting it closer to Campbell Street, and obviously we don't want buses parked opposite each other, but we do know, and I know that varies because the buses slow down and speed up and are held up, etc. But generally the buses aren't side by side, are they? Because it's actually quite a long route, so they are quite spaced out generally, aren't they? So it'd be a very rare time that they would actually be parking or picking up at any one time opposite each other, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it would be rare. Yes. Yeah, they're not timing points, so they are just stops.
Because I just look at the north side and to have because the whatever number 12 Campbell Street has no access onto Duncan Street, and it would be just seem to be clean it up if that stop was moved to the end. You're the experts, but I'll just clean it. I don't know.
It would be quite a considerable cost in that as well. We'd have to rebuild the hard stand area, but the reasons being more about safety, getting it close to the intersection, which isn't something we would support compared to the existing location.
Okay. Mel? Okay, so we've got a mover, Kia's moving and Mel's seconding. So we'll move into debate now. Yeah, and I guess picking up where I left off, thank you for interrupting me here. But yeah, I mean, this is an example of a decision that has a lot of trade-offs, and I really want to acknowledge the community for turning up today to tell us their views, and to also to bring along with them the views of people who couldn't be here. So that's really important. It's definitely given me a lot of pause for thought about what the right option is. I am going to, I personally am going to support this motion. I'm going to ask if anyone else would like to debate. Is there anything else I'd like to say? Keir?
Oh, I'd just like to, I guess, acknowledge the deputies, but particularly just to say that on our road network, we do have to prioritise safety as a primary thing. It's the lens I look through all of our decisions on this. And I do think, unfortunately, the reality is sometimes that is going to have some knock-on effects for other things we might like to do in an ideal world, but ultimately making sure that, particularly for all road users of a range of different mobilities, perspectives, ages, is really important to me. So thank you.
Thanks, Keir. Sarah?
Thanks so much, and thank you to the deputies, and thank you especially to Sarah for coming in. I know it's a much harder to organise for you to come in, and so thank you for doing that. That's right. It's not easy, and independence is incredibly important for so many people, and being able to safely access public transport is key for so many people who are not able to drive to get around the city. And when it comes to on-street parking on public space, I do believe in the high level principles of prioritising public transport over private transport on the public realm there. And while that will be less convenient for some of the others on the street, the reality is that if we don't mark out stops, even though a bus could stop somewhere else, the likelihood of finding a suitable space that has enough space on the street to be able to pull into parallel to allow a hard standing without it being marked is slim to none. And that we know that that has already had serious consequences for at least one member of the community. And so I'll be supporting that today. Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah, look, thank you. When bus stops were proposed outside our place, we went to the council way before I was elected, and we got that moved in front of our garage and our neighbour's garage, because it was only going to stop every now and then, and we didn't believe it was going to stop at all because we're almost at the end of the line. And so we worked with the council to just move it to a safer place, because our neighbours, elderly neighbours across from us, had they called them card nights. I'd prefer to call them gin nights, but you know, that's all right. But it was just safer for them because they were on the downhill side. So we just thought it was just a better way to go, and to move it away from them so they could see cyclists, etc., with a bit of a clearer vision. I can totally understand that the north side wanting to move the stop to the end of Duncan Street, because 12 Campbell Street doesn't have access to it. And I know we always are concerned about budgets, etc., but maybe in the long term, putting a new stop there with getting the ground right, etc., for all users would be a better way to go forward. So you do a fantastic job, and I thank you very much for it. But I just might abstain today.
Okay,
Thank you.
Cool. Any other comment? Okay. All those in favour? All right. Against? Abstentions? Tim? Carried. Thanks very much. And I just want to acknowledge as well the work of staff. It's really a really well considered report. Obviously, a lot of consultation that's been done, and appreciate the thoroughness and the options presented. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So presentation of petitions. Oh, Sarah?
I know it should have been asked earlier, but actually, when would this be installed? Just so Sarah can know. Okay, but if you could let us know when that's going to happen and let Sarah know, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, probably good. Just let the community know.
Sarah, Mum's got to make a check.
Excuse me.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you can speak, yeah.
Can I just clarify what the motion was? Was it to shift? What
option are we going with?
Was it to shift one
Op-
of the bus
op-
stops
op-
Waste of time, that's serious.
Option 1.
which is what, to shift the bus stop round to Wakefield Avenue?
Nothing. It's going to stop all the parking.
So we're going to be going with the staff recommendation option, which was to mark out the bus stops completely in those locations where they currently are. Yeah.
And dangerous.
So I'm going to leave it there because we do have to move on with the meeting. And if you do have questions, very happy to have a chat about it after meeting time.
Sorry, we can't stay.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So we're going to move on to presentation of petitions. Currently, we don't have any petitions today. Thanks. Correspondence. So we've had correspondence received from Julie Steffens requesting repairs to footpaths on Fusilier Street. What was that? Okay. So we've got correspondence from Julie Steffens about repairs to footpaths on Fusilier Street, Hussar Place and Martel Place. So this is basically just a request for those footpaths to be considered in the footpath repair program. We're happy to refer that to staff for advice. Cool. Okay. Question on that one, Tim?
If it's going for staff advice, can we just ask the staff to go directly to whoever the staff are at Central and just get that put on the program rather than, they don't have to come back to us and talk?
Right, yes. So we're not asking for information. We're asking them for, yeah, no, that's a good clarification. Thanks, Tim. Happy with that?
To the list.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think anyone's got a problem with that.
No, that's, sorry, just, yeah. We're not asking for information, we're asking for them just to add it to the, yeah, cool. No, that's, yep, makes sense. Thank you, Tim. Yep. Oh, we need a mover for that, don't we? Should we move that, Tim? I'll second that. All those in favour? Against, abstentions, carried. Okay, moving on to staff reports. Sydenham Park. Cool. Yep. Yeah, Tim's going to move it. I mean, we should probably, Felix, you want to come to the table, just give us a very brief. Yeah. 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 Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you'll all know it well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an iconic piece of sporting history. Well, the club is. But any questions?
No questions. We've got a mover. Will's going to second that. All those in favour? Against, abstentions? Carried. Thanks for coming, Felix.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no. I'm not being ironic for you. Just, yeah. Thank you. Cool. So next up, we've got the former Opawa Children's Library building. So Barry, do you want to come and tell us about what's going on there? So we have all read the report thoroughly. So if you just want to maybe go over some of the highlights or things that stick out that are important for you, we can go to questions.
We obviously had a requirement to do an EOI for this particular building, which has been vacant for some time. We carried out an EOI, I think it's between September and November last year. We had one submission. Sorry, I'll go back again. We were looking for a community group or a business group to take over the building, basically to relocate it. We were looking for a group to relocate the building and remediate the land at no cost to council. So we went through an EOI process. At the time that we closed the EOI, we had one formal application. which we took forward, and that was from a lady called Glenys Crompton. She wanted to use the building as a residential sort of tiny house building on her own, on a residential plot. We gave her some time through over the Christmas period and into the new year to have a look at that as an option, and she's costed it and came back to us and said, look, I can't make it work. So she withdrew her application. At the point that we closed the EOI process, there was some late interest from the Ferrymead Trust and from the Revolution Tiny House Village in that order. So post Christmas, we provided the Ferrymead Trust with a bit of time to come back to us with a proposal. We didn't really get a proposal from them, but we did sort of get an understanding of where they were financially. And I think we concluded after considering all the facts that they couldn't possibly take it on from a financial standpoint. And I think it's fair to say they probably felt the same way. The other interested party were the Revolution Tiny House Village, who were looking at possibly taking the building over to Richmond, the residential red zone eco-housing site. Again, I guess Sarah will know a bit more about the process there in terms of the co-governance situation and all that sort of stuff. I think they were saying, look, it's just a bit too early for us to commit to it, and that's kind of where we left it with them. So having put those two to one side, we then got a late inquiry from a lady called Tina Von Peen, who again wanted to take it on as a tiny house opportunity. She was pretty excited about it, and frankly, we were too. We only engaged with her about a month ago. She had some plans for what she wanted to do with it, but she couldn't find a site, basically. I think new developments don't allow relocatables, and she just couldn't find another site to take it on. So reluctantly, she declined the opportunity as well. So that's really where we're at. That's why we've
that's
sort of made a recommendation that we don't demolish it. It's in a position where it shouldn't be, I guess, now in terms of flood risk and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Cool. No, thank you very much. We'll go to questions. Got a question from Lee.
Okay, Barry, just from the interested parties that you have spoke to, what bearing has the Make Good Works and the extent of that prohibited people moving forward, or your impression of how that's impacted people's ability to confirm viability of that?
I think the costs are a big issue for anybody looking at the opportunity. I should add that there was a contribution of 40,000 offered to the people who were interested, because that was the effective cost of demolishing and removing the building and remediating the site. So they had that thought as well. So it's not like we were asking them to do the whole thing themselves, but we still would be interested.
Okay, no, I think that for me that is a big part. If we could, if there's an opportunity to give more certainty to what those costs are, or council to look at some of that scope, so we've got some surety. I think we're asking a lot of a third party to take on board risk when we're trying to meet some some sustainability objectives. There's some heritage association there. I think we might need to come to the party on this one. And secondly, we've obviously used GETS there, but we're originally looking at community organisations and some community usage. I'm just wondering if there's been a how can I say this? Maybe GETS wasn't the right vehicle to look at this. Could we have gone open market? Could we have maybe shoulder tapped some more community groups? Do you think we might have missed some opportunities? Is probably what I'm asking, Barry.
I think probably not. Prior to doing the EOI process, we approached all of the community boards to go and speak to any of their community organisations to see whether there was any interest in the building. It was advertised on the council website. I think there was a public notice as well. So I don't think we have. I think we've pretty well covered the market in that respect. But I take your point. I mean, we could have put it on the market, but the first priority was to provide an opportunity to community organisations to take the building on.
I'm just slightly concerned about community sentiment on this, and again, the Heritage Association and the sustainability objectives of the council, that we maybe should just try and at 4.5 of your report does discuss possibly reissuing an EOI and giving this one last chance. And I think I'd feel that we were remiss not to do that. So just want to just check your thoughts on that.
The pressing issue with it is the location that it's based. So it's on the floodplain. We've been asked to remove it. We were asked to remove it a while ago. We've gone through the process to say, do we still need it? From a council unit perspective, we've gone in internally and nobody's got a use for it. We've spoken to community organisations, or asked our governance teams to speak to community organisations. We haven't seen it, and we've gone through the EOI process. So the question is, how long is a piece of string, I guess, with this one, given that we need to remove it from its current location. That's our burning platform. We wouldn't let another organisation be based there. We wouldn't let another group be based there or build there. And we're aware that we are being asked regularly, when will it be gone and when will this be resolved?
Okay. Got quick questions from Tim, Sarah, and then Mel.
Yeah, because at 5.9 on page 42, so council contribution of $40,000. I mean, when you're shifting a building, that never happens. So that's, I think, quite reasonable and generous. With regards to getting it off the site, was it ever thought about, contacting one of the moving companies who have storage to just remove it and remediate the site and just gift it to them? Was that ever thought?
Not specifically, no.
But if a removal company wanted to come in and pick it up and take it off our hands and keep it somewhere,
yeah,
and they could have done through the EOI, yeah,
and taken 40 grand,
yeah.
Cool.
Sarah?
Thank you. There's no, apart from council kind of not having a use for it and wanting to get off its hand, there's no kind of urgency with the flooding thing. So I've seen lots of floods around it, never quite to it. And with the flood basin stuff working, we were told with the original report, there's no urgency and we could have like short-term other uses. So there's no like immediate urgency, like within the next year or two, for example, is there? It's not likely to wash away in a big,
No, that's true. But I suppose technically, technically the building shouldn't be there. We don't own the land, and there's no land parcel assigned to that piece of land. It's not ours. Although we've been there for many years.
Rights
except that,
yeah. So over the last couple of days, I've had today contact. So in the last week, there's been a newspaper article, for example, with Red Bikes looking for a more permanent space. Clearly, Riverbank is not ideal, but the building potentially. And they're now keen to have a look at it. That's just been a very new thing for them. The other thing that's popped up is actually a council site where the community has been asking for a very long time, and I just don't know if it really reached them, and that's the 10 Shirley Road site that you might be familiar with, that had a community facility knocked over and never rebuilt post-quake, and they've been asking for a facility. And I'm wondering if there's the potential for us to look at transferring it to that site for community use. It wouldn't probably fit in with the original resolutions, because that was a look for something so there's no cost to council. But I'm just wondering if that was something that might be looked at.
It's not an option that when we've spoken to Parks, they've come back and said. So they've said no. There's a piece of consultation work that's going on at the moment around 10 Shelley Road to say the pre-engagement has started with local schools to say, how do we make use of this space?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? that's going to so I wouldn't want to predetermine the outcome of what that's going to say.
Yes, but so for example, because any funding for that site is years out, apart from a small amount of engagement money. If, for example, that consultation came back and said, actually, we only need a small building, we actually just want to activate the land and the site and do things there, then it might be that knocking over the library has actually taken away an opportunity to repurpose a building, if that makes sense. So what I'm thinking is we probably haven't looked deep enough, sorry, and hard enough, because we haven't, I guess as elected members as well, not being that focused, because I just assumed that someone would come in with something. And it looks like Revolution could be in a position in maybe 6 months' time because they'd have more certainty. And I'm just wondering if there's no hurry, if we held off for up to a year, depending on whether something came forward, whether that's a viable option. Because it looks like there's things that might be able to use it.
But the concern is, so there's a risk concern of where it is at the moment. So we did a visit the other day with somebody that was potentially looking at it, and so I've been there twice in a fortnight. I'd been, and in that time, somebody had smashed windows and fireworks had been put through, and so things. So there is the real ongoing risk of where it's sitting, and the risk of further damage to it. So we're well aware of that. We've got other properties that are sitting in a place that haven't been used, and other things have happened to them. So there is that real and ongoing risk around safety risk, I guess, around that. The other point I would make is regularly we extend a life on making a decision for something, and these things go on and drag on for longer and longer and longer, and we could come back in 6 months and we could be in the same place, and we could be saying, and there might be another group that said, well, we think we can make this work. So at some point you need to put the line in the sand.
It's a really clear answer.
I agree, but we've only really just started this one. This is the first attempt, and I look at
so Sarah, I'm just going to take questions from Mel and then Lee, and then I'll ask if there's a mover. And yeah, Mel.
In the climate change aspect of the report, it doesn't mention the cost of demolition in terms of climate change. It's well known that if you're demolishing something and then you've got to rebuild, that's costing you more than just removing this to somewhere else for another purpose. So that report doesn't actually mention that at all. It just is quite biased.
Is there a question there, Mel?
Yeah, so why is it quite biased?
Is there a non-leading question there, Mel? Yeah.
Well, why has it not been included? That was the question.
I don't think there was any intended bias in that particular issue. I mean, the other side of the coin is that we're taking a building away and returning the land to its original state, which is a contrary view, I guess.
And do we know what the cost of moving a building like that actually is? I know that would be on whoever was to use it, but do you know what the rough cost would be compared to cost of demolition?
I think the 40,000 was a figure that was put together to reflect the cost of moving the building and also remediating the site. So I don't know, 20,000.
So we could, what I could say to that is the last group that we spoke to around removing it were confident it was an excellent proposal. If it had worked out, it would have been fantastic. Had even got the design, it would have all happened within that cost.
And if it was to be demolished as well, like how does that process occur? Like, do parts of the building, are they saved as the wood reused, or does it just get whacked over and into the dump?
Well, I guess that's really something that we can direct the successful tenderer on. We'd have to speak to Heritage on that. If they wanted parts of the building to retain them, we can arrange that.
So do we have the information then around the exact heritage aspects of this building? Because it sort of mentions a history, but I don't know anything else.
I'm not sure. It's not scheduled, no.
Right.
No.
Question from Lee. I see your hand up, Lee. Is that from the last time or is that a new hand up?
It is a new hand up. I just again, I'd feel remiss if we didn't give this another crack. So I'm just going to put that out there now that I think we should be looking at an alternative resolution there to reissue an EOI and just give this one more crack. The EOI does give the stakeholder time to move the structure. So I think it's up to 12 months. That could be maybe reduced to 6 months, just so staff have got some certainty. But I really just want to give this another crack. And I think I'd feel remiss again if we didn't do that.
Okay.
There was debate.
Okay, so we've got, before we have a mover, is there any other questions we need to ask before, Sarah, you're going to move? And okay, can we get that up on the screen if that's not a, it's a, yeah. Did you want to just read it out for us, Sarah?
Yeah, so it's just request that staff make further attempts, so not specifying what they are, to find a new owner for the old Opawa Children's Library and report back to the community board if a viable option is found, or in 1 year, whichever is the sooner.
Tim, seconding that?
No, well,
I'll second it.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table and we're moving into debate now. Sarah, did you want to open us up or?
Yeah, just I can completely understand the organisation's desire to actually just move on, and there has been some time spent in a process done. I just know that community often moves differently and more slowly to that, and I'd like us to look a bit harder and explore more options. I know that when the Ralston House, on Worcester Street, Ralston Ave, in the mind at the moment, came up. There was originally, staff had a look around, couldn't find anyone to use it, and proposed it for sale in the last long-term plan. And once it was very public, and the community governance staff and the within the organisation started doing more work on it, actually it very quickly coalesced into what's now an amazing art space. And I would hate us to miss out on the opportunity of something like that happening when we know that actually there's a couple of other things in the works at the moment, either the Revolution or maybe the 10 Shirley site or something like that. And I'd hate for those places to miss out on which is a beautiful old wooden building. It looks nondescript on the outside, but it's beautiful inside. And I would hate it to fall victim to a digger. Thanks.
Tim?
Look, if it were saying an extra 6 months, I'd be open to it, but not a year. I think staff have done a good job. And I think council is actually being very, very generous, offering $40,000 to someone to take this small building away. And not all buildings, when you have to repurpose them, it actually takes a lot of money. It's an old building. It is being vandalised, as staff have pointed out. So it's not giving it actually any favours leaving it there. I would support the amendment if it was 6 months, but not for 12 months. So I'm going to say no to the amendment.
Yeah.
Mel?
Look, I'm opposed to knocking down buildings, basically, and especially ones that have heritage aspects. I've been into this building when it was operating as the library after the earthquakes, and it is a beautiful wee space. It reminds you of the Hoonhay Library actually when you go into it, and that one where it's almost ready to be revamped. Well, it's been revamped and opening like later this week. So there's always life for old things, in my opinion. I also felt like this report mentions some of the potential uses of it in future, and there just happen to be not quite in the right space at this exact point in time to be able to use it. And so I feel like with more time, they may be able to do that. And look, to be honest, to to find users for spaces like this, it's not a matter of putting out an EOI and getting people to come to you. It's a matter of going out and shoulder tapping and pointing out that this exists, because people don't know if they're not told. And so that is sort of the process that needs to happen, in my opinion, which, you know, is probably up to elected members, and I was unaware of this until the report. So I also feel like I haven't had the background information on this particularly. I guess it has gone through council, but because it's new to this board, yeah, I feel like I have had a lack of information purely just because of how it's happened. So I will be supporting the amendment.
Sorry, just while we're getting the resolution up on screen, Tim?
Yeah, when I read the report, I'm very keen on that site being returned to the river as a riverbank and used properly, and very much in favour of that. And I had felt that you'd made a good effort and looked at several people, and people who looked at it, then backed away. However, I was concerned to hear that there was no canvassing really for potential private people who may wish for it. There was just searching around the community. So I would support holding off for 6 months, but not for 1 year.
Yeah,
I'm happy second.
Okay. Yes, we had the second. So the second was Mel second the first motion. And then Tim, are you foreshadowing or you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, so you are, sorry, just bear with me here. Thanks, team. Okay, so you've got are you moving an amendment or are you foreshadowing a few?
I'm foreshadowing.
Right, so that's not something that would be seconded. We're still debating the actual. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, a foreshadowed seconding, I suppose. Okay. Okay. Thanks. I recognise that the work that's been done by staff to approach community groups and private individuals, and the desire to restore the riverbank as well. I also think that we don't want to see this being one of those things that just drags on and on and on, waiting for an opportunity. It's just not that the site's not suitable for that. However, I do think that there is it sounds like we've had enough almost opportunities that there is potentially something out there that I'd like to see this looked at least for another 6 months. So I'll be opposing the current motion, and I'll foreshadow that I'll support the foreshadowed motion. All right. So yeah, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of the this is of the 12. Sorry, this is the current motion, the resolution. Thank you, Sarah. This is for a 12-month, essentially going back out to the community and to individuals looking up to 12 months. Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
No.
Lee, is that hand, just to clarify, Lee, is that hand for or against?
Sorry, I just want to clarify. Are we going to run two motions with a 6 month and a 12-month option? I'm slightly confused at the moment because I haven't got the resolution.
The option on the motion on the table at the moment is 12 months, and we've had a foreshadowed motion for a 6 month.
Yeah, I would be with the foreshadowed motion. Sorry.
Okay, that's pretty clear. Okay, so the motion fails, and we've got Tim. You'll be moving the 6 month. Seconded by Keir. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Aye. Abstentions? Carried. Right. You've really put me through my paces tonight. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, team. Okay. All right. So thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate the work you've been done, and we'll see you in 6 months.
I think that now that we've come to it, actually, we kind of agree that we would really like to see it used. The question is how, as a board, do we actively work to make that happen rather than just sending it away and waiting 6 months, if you know what I mean? So I think we need to probably work out how we do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a really good suggestion, Sarah.
It's obviously not going to go now because, I think we need to have a discussion about that and go out to our networks and then go maybe put it through staff to Barry, if that's.
Yeah.
Because we could go on about it, but being offered 40 grand to take a small building away and no one's jumped at it.
Yeah. If only Plan Change 14 was passed, I could have it in my backyard. Just saying.
All right. Thanks so much. Oh, Barry, we've got you back for the Hazeldean.
Yeah, I'm Stuart now.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, look, I apologise. Apologise, Stuart. No. Sorry, Stuart. He talks to us about the road reserve, Hazeldean Road.
Stu apologises for not being here.
Oh.
I'm Barry. Stu's not
Oh
here.
gosh. This is just cruel. This is really cruel. Yeah, I see. That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Barry's
Yeah.
the better looking one.
No, yeah. So I could. Yeah, I was right the first time. I'll point that out. Sorry, Barry.
I'm Stuart.
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah. I'll be watching this live stream later. That'll be this video later. Okay, so I think this report's really quite. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's simple, but I think it's clear. Yeah. Any questions around this report?
Essentially, to clear off an oversight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kia?
Sorry, this may be answered in the report and I haven't got figured it straight in my head. Are we going to be, so this was a bit of land that was carved off and then it's not needed, right? Someone else is occupying it. Was council, and council is the owner, was council ever given any money by not the current occupier, but the succession of ownership there? Have council ever been paid for this land?
Pass. Can't answer that. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
I think the problem was that it was subdivided at one point, and there were two lots that were put aside for road reserve, and we've never sorted that issue out. But I can't answer your question. I'm sorry.
So the person, yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to understand if the person who's currently occupying it has ever, or back in the chain, if they've ever given council money for it.
I'd say not.
Okay, cool.
I'm happy to move this. Tim's going to second. Cool. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carry. Thank you so much, Barry, or Stuart, or whoever you are.
Stu will be delighted.
Thank you for that. No, thanks very much, Barry. Cool. Okay, now we're moving to the DRF board projects report. Grace, do you want to talk to this one?
I can't actually move the computer.
Oh, do what you got to do. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know anymore. So yeah. So no. All right. Let's put that to bed.
Just to say that we spoke about board projects some months ago and said that we'd dribble these through as we go through the process of putting the plan, a team work plan around the board plan. So we're in that process. We're coming to talk about the board plan next time, and we're looking at these particular aspects of board projects because setting up the DRF and YDF is a no-brainer as soon as we can in the new financial year. And Chanel will talk a little to the Hoon Hey Hoops and Fiesta. Do you want to speak to either of the other two?
No, let them ask me.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Kia ora, everyone. So Hoon Hey Fiesta and Hoon Hey Hoops. So I'm not too sure whether everybody's aware of both of these events. I know we've got some new members that are in the local ward area now. So Hoon Hey Fiesta and Hoon Hey Hoops have been supported as a board project for a number of years. The Fiesta is a collaborative local event celebrating local community and connection. Rowley Community Centre, alongside a number of local people from within the community, as well as a couple of organisations, bring this together. So both projects were delivered in 2022 with 500 people in attendance at the Hoon Hey, approximately, at the Hoon Hey Fiesta, and approximately 100 people at the Hoon Hey Hoops. So taking into consideration the community attendance for the event, the discussion with the organisation that leads the Hoon Hey Hoops around the uncertainty of the project lead, who's the connector within the community, whether they were able to deliver the Hoon Hey Hoops. I've reviewed the cost of the 2022 Hoon Hey Fiesta, and I believe that there's an opportunity for staff to support in a capacity building space to deliver a more cost-effective project or event. And also consideration of the Pacific Series, which won't be held at Hoon Hey Park this year. It's being moved to Burnside Park with a larger capacity. Yeah. So with all of that into consideration, the recommendation from staff is $4,500 for the delivery of the Hoon Hey Fiesta only.
Any questions from the board?
It is a change.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, recognising that. Roy?
Yeah, I was just looking at the funding history. How much went towards it in the past?
Yeah, okay. So previously we've given $8,500, which is both the Fiesta and the Hoops, $7,000 of that going to for the delivery of the Fiesta, and $1,500 towards the delivery of Hoon Hey Hoops. Upon the accountabilities from last year, it was just under $6,000 for the delivery of the Hoon Hey Fiesta. And as mentioned, there is an opportunity for staff capacity building by way of delivering a more cost-effective event.
Right, any other questions? Oh, Roy?
In the past, the council used to run the Hoon Hey Fiesta, and then it was taken on by the community and run. Yeah, I'm not too sure if because a lot of the focus was on young people, like compared to when I look about other like events that go around the city, like a firm. Yeah, I look at at a firm, it's quite a focus on the front stage and not much going on for the children. But I know with Hoon Hey community, like it's got quite a lot of young people compared to other suburbs. That's why there's quite a big emphasis on having a lot of activities for the young people to use and have fun on. And I'm just looking at the budget that a lot of it gets taken up by the stage. So, and then there'd probably be enough for one activity for the kids to use. I'm wondering.
Yeah, by way of capacity building, council have we have a stage here. We have a stage so that was one of the things that was a consideration. Is there a need for a stage to be at the Hoon Hey Fiesta when a focus is on the activities around the children? And less of a focus on the stage. Previously, I do understand that there has been, performances by local kapahaka groups, and that hasn't necessarily happened. It didn't happen last year. Yeah, so that was one of the considerations around the capacity building, and where there's cost-effective ways for us to be able to deliver a similar project. Yeah.
Were you keen to move it, Roy? Or do you know the question?
Yeah, nah, thanks for that. It's because it is quite expensive, the stage costs, and that takes a big chunk, and it takes away from, the kids. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Also, by way of comparison, the Waltham Fair cost 3.5 to 2.5 to deliver, and we're looking at 4.5. So for double the number of attendants, and council delivered that. So this is about there's a give and a take in it.
Totally. So Roy's moving. Do we have a seconder? No. Excellent. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thanks. Cool. Okay. So area report.
Oh, well, I thought
You just do it from here.
I thought I'd do that one from here. I'm just going to take it as read and take questions.
Cool. Oh, I had a question. Any questions from the board? Oh, just a comment. Just really excited about the decision around the fruit trees on and not needing testing. Just enormously relieved that we do not have to make a decision to sell it a huge amount of money. Do you know if the parks are planning to come back to the board around a decision to plant fruit trees in the near future? In Gainsborough, is it? Yeah, cool. We'll ask about fruit trees then. Great, thanks. Yeah, cool. Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that probably should have been in the area report, but I didn't forward it through soon enough, and it wasn't an official memo to the board, but it was the update on the Heathcote Expressway. It's not really elected members exchange, it's more, and that was just because the coastal pathway one's there. But it's looking like, so I sent that message around to people. But that's the kind of thing that is kind of more governance report. So just whether we would lodge that here or whether I wait to.
We'll put it in next month's one.
Yeah.
It just wasn't, this was signed off.
And that's just because I'd asked for the information because someone else had asked for it and stuff.
Cool.
But yeah.
All right. Any other questions? I'm going to move that we accept the area report. Tim's going to second, my faithful sidekick Tim. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. All right, so moving to elected members exchange. I'll kick us off. We've had an invite from Graham Harris to the opening of the Sydenham Indoor Centre on Sunday, the 30th of July at 3. Just wanted one member from the board to come along to represent us. So yeah, I'm happy to go unless anyone else wants to go. Cool. Thank you, Tim. Awesome. Tim?
Yeah, I've got a few things. The first one was that I was at the Mount Pleasant Community Centre AGM and got bailed up by community members who were concerned about the grass area outside Kids First Kindergarten. I've sent through some photographs of that. What they were reporting is that the footpath outside the community centre stops before it reaches Kids First. So what is happening at this time of year, there's a muddy track where cars stop to drop kids off, and to avoid that, sometimes parents are walking down the road with buggies, etc. And so there was a request to me of, could the board ask for staff advice on extending the footpath that goes past the community centre to also go past Kids First and go round and join up with the footpath on Main Road.
Right.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Are you able to put up the photo at all? The satellite kind of one. So I've had concerns about this
They're
one.
there on the additions to the.
Oh yeah, it's in the hub, so people can
In the
see
hub.
that.
Yep.
So
No,
yeah,
we've got them
but
in
they're in the hub now. So if you look at the satellite photo, when the coastal pathway was first put in place, people did raise this as an issue. But at that point, actually the community centre wasn't rebuilt and people weren't quite sure what was happening. It's also raised as an issue by a woman who's a tetraplegic who had been having trouble accessing the coastal pathway from the car park at the other side as well. Because actually the coastal pathway access from that area there, you can see where the red dot is. So I mark them with dots. Yeah. So the red dot is the pedestrian refuge there. The yellow dot is where the tiny little bit of footpath is when you get off the pedestrian refuge, and that goes away from the community centre. And there's actually no sealed path for anyone who's got accessibility issues to go from the coastal pathway to the community centre. And they decided to put the refuge there rather than further down where the community centre is because it's near the intersection. And anyway, that was many, many years ago now. And they didn't want to put a zebra crossing in because of course it's a big, wide, long, straight thing, unsafe. But there is no footpath, and yeah, all the way around to where the green is. The big open grass spaces, because this is clearly from a while ago, the big open grass spaces, that's where the kindy is now. Those unfamiliar.
Okay.
So going from the yellow to the green is where a footpath is needed.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will confess, I did ring the head teacher to see if they were interested in it and concerned about it. And they felt that people were managing, but when they described how people were managing, it didn't give me a lot of comfort.
No.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Has someone put it in?
No. Tim only just raised it today.
Yeah, if you could also put in a request for
service, yeah.
service, because
Sure.
no, join it up.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that is at the level of a request for service? If we're talking about essentially,
Absolutely. You get all directions.
okay,
Yeah.
doesn't need extra oomph from us to.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
both. Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
I'm
so
not saying don't do both.
yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So happy to. Yeah, are we happy to just refer this to staff for advice around what could be done to improve accessibility here?
From the coastal pathway to the community centre.
Yep. No, I think it's pretty,
Sealed access.
that's pretty clear from the photos what the problem is.
Yeah.
And the second thing was a resident of Redcliffe's, Pete Franklin, had asked me how to go about asking the board for information around the proposed the driveway for the proposed medical centre that's being built. So I said yes to get something from the board, write a letter to Jane, but he wrote a letter to Jane but didn't address it to the board. So it's arrived, hasn't it? What's the best thing to do with that?
We can get an action today. Would be a bit more.
What's just
so he wants to, the request is what is happening in terms of anything relating to enabling cars to be more easily get in and out of the Redcliffe's Medical Centre, which is currently being built, and where the driveway exits straight into the middle of an intersection with lights.
Okay.
Staff will have been working hard at it, and there will have been a lot going on. But I think
we need that information.
Information to the board would be useful.
Okay, no thanks, that's clear.
And the third one, I just was very excited on Tuesday night to, Keir and I attended the Zoom meeting update from the Urban Forest, presenting plans for, I think it was 16, 17 parks as part of the Urban Forest to get stuck in and plant this year. And they said they'll be doing 50 parks a year. And presented a lot of plans. The plans that are out were opened on the 30th and close on the 17th. So I encourage people to go have a look and see if you want to make any comments on them.
Question from, is it about that? Yep.
So because when after the fire on the hills, we had buses and buses of people going up planting, and then the issue, as the rangers have told us many, many times, is no one else. Then when it came to maintenance, no one turned up. So we had this amazing planting flurry. So with the urban forest, which is a fantastic initiative, there's no question. The bigger issue is the actual planned maintenance of the trees in the forest. And did they talk about that?
Well, these are all part of, they're using existing sports grounds and parks. So it would, and it was presented by Andrew Rutledge. So presumably they have a plan.
And they'll have existing plans in place for those parks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we've got problems with our parks and our sports fields, which so I'm actually more concerned than I was before.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Were you wanting to ask for advice around that, Tim, or just to raise it?
No, I was just for information.
Cool. Mel?
There's an Eddington Food Resilience Hui by the Eddington Farm next Thursday. Night at 7 at Manuka. I thought it was tonight, but I just checked and it's actually next week. So that's good. So I always go a week early. Last week, a number of us, was it last week, the week before, we went to the thing that was here about the Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote River Network that Tim's on, and they asked us questions. It was really good to just talk about how wonderful they are.
What was the event, sorry?
It was a talk with, and part of the University of Canterbury. Yeah.
Awesome.
I went to Summit Road AGM because I'm on that, but also it was really good because they had a talk from Beats Peninsula Predator Free and what they're doing there, which I actually hadn't known about. And the plan, this is great aspiration in the future to have predator free Canterbury between, so they're kind of moving along the Port Hills and trying to eliminate predators, but eventually to go up to the mountains and to the two rivers either side, so that it's just really aspirational. That's not through the Summit Road, but just overall in Canterbury. There was the opening of the John Jameson Lookout that Sarah went to, which is not really part of the board area, but it's quite close, and obviously that's been done by Summit Road. There was a meeting in Raleigh about housing in Kaingaora housing, which was quite interesting to go to, and how difficult it actually is to engage with the residents in those houses when there's new housing being built and there were questions about it. They're very distrusting of things that are happening, and how challenging it is to talk with them about it. But I think that was really helpful. And I've had lots of positive feedback about the surf projects, but there is people mentioning other cycleway connections that they personally would prefer ahead of those, and trying to explain about the funding is tricky. So I keep trying to say, we're going to do them, they're on our radar, but it's something we need to not forget. And I've had a lot of people ask about footpath repair in Hoonhay. There was that one, but there was been another person as well. It's because they see repaired footpaths down those streets, but not theirs. So they wonder why they aren't done. And of course, there's going to be more happening in Spreydon with the money that'll be there. So I guess we just need to keep in the back of our mind the areas that haven't been done. And the safe speed neighbourhood areas passed at council, which was great. So I can't wait till we have 30 Ks in all of our local neighbourhoods. Yay. So that was great.
Thanks, Mel.
So I've been struck up a nice friendship with Anne Marie, who of course was at the Garden Awards, both of them won something. So now she's on at me about the old man's beard, which I think she's talked to a number of you about in the past. So I just directed her to the Snaps in Solve, which would be the right avenue once again, and did it myself. But I don't know if there is much more we can do there. Just keep that going.
Yeah, I mean, if you just send through Snaps in Solve, and if it doesn't seem to get resolved, that's when you'd probably bring it back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brilliant.
We'll start with that. That's good. Thanks, Will.
Good. Thank you.
Cheers. Kia?
Are there specific? So she's got specific places, because if you if you were to send in your requests, then we can follow them up.
Yeah.
Send it across so we can.
Kia?
So attended the Waihoro-Heathcote River Network AGM where Annabelle Hasselman stepped down as chair. So I just thought it'd be good to acknowledge the work that she's done over the last few years in an organisation that's really grown under her stewardship. So that was really cool to have that chance. And obviously that means they now have a new chair. And I have to admit that the name has absolutely deserted me in the past 10 seconds. Thank you. But it would be lovely if we could try and catch up with Quentin as a board and just try and keep that relationship going, because we've had a really good relationship with Annabelle. I attended the Summerfield Residents Association meeting on Monday night. And one of the issues that came up, among many others, was the state of the grass verges on Rose Street. I remember that we've asked for advice about this in the past. I tried to see if I could find it, but I haven't been able to track it down. So I was wondering if staff could maybe look at previous advice we've had on Rose Street, and then maybe we think about where to from here. But I think as an initial point, let's not reinvent the wheel. There's already
Rose Street.
Rose Street.
Yeah, just getting it recirculated, getting the existing information recirculated.
Yeah, I think it's getting that recirculated so that we can give it to the Residents Association and say, here's your next step, which is by asking for more money. And I was quite realistic that money is going to be the problem. So another thing was attended a meeting, a site visit at Steadfast Books to discuss the Te Aratai cycle connection, which was productive. I think it was an interesting one where you have parking challenges for businesses. I guess one thing that it was really good was to have the chance to reiterate to some of the businesses the rationale for the project and why actually there is, and just to have a bit of a discussion about the fact that just because there aren't people currently using this road doesn't mean that if it was safe, people wouldn't currently use that road. So that was quite positive. But I think everyone's seen the updated stuff that's been circulated. The only thing is, I guess we just need to make sure that from the perspective of our constituents who are maybe traveling along that road on a bike or walking, that's been kept in mind.
I had an email from Heath because he lives in Addington, and he said it was another positive, constructive meeting today with updated proposals presented. So it was very positive.
Good, excellent.
And really good work by staff to be able to respond to that. So I think the other thing is that the staff are being really proactive about responding to some of these stuff and iterating really quickly. They're obviously under a lot of strain to deliver these projects, and I was impressed with how they handled it. And that was all I had, actually.
Yeah, a few of the young people come up to me and we're talking about that the lights at Hoonhay Park basketball aren't working, and then I tried them out and I didn't know how I'd snap, send and solve that problem. But yeah, I guess if someone could check that out. Also attended Rally Ave, had a Matariki celebration at the end of the term, celebrated with a hangi, and there's one at Addington Primary School as well on Monday when the kids get back at school, so 5 p.m. If anyone's keen for a feed, come along. And, hopefully I cook it all right. And I'm a slow processor, but yeah, just going back to the Hoonhay Fiesta, I'm pretty sure that was attended by over 1,000 people over those 3 hours that it was there, not 500. Just want to point that out.
You got a comment on that, Grace?
I just to say that those were the numbers that we were given by Rowley Community Centre about who attended. So
Sarah?
Right, so a couple of things we mentioned already. The John Jameson Lookout opening, which was fantastic, although very wet and windy and cold, but just amazing, super cool. And the Waihoro-Heathcote River Network focus group was really good, and it was looking at how the structure of the network is able to enable more work than the individual parts, and how that is able to then inform other groups that might set up across the country. So they're looking at a couple of similar ones and then finding the learnings from that so that other groups and environmental groups across the country can enhance their work, which was great. Tim and I this morning actually went to Tim's house with members of the Christchurch Yacht Club and stuff like that, just to talk about some of the issues that are happening around the yacht club at the moment, and so there'll be more sort of happening in that space in the next wee while. They were just quite keen to reconnect, because they haven't really been connected with council and the community board for a very long time, and they were keen just to connect, I think, which was good. And the other one was the email I sent through on the Heathcote Expressway. So it's looking like it might open, will be ready in September, which is super close. And I went for a ride the other day to check out all of the different stages and where they were at. And you can actually ride a really good portion of it now. There's just a couple of kind of gaps. And so we haven't had a proper cycleway opening in a really long time. We had the tiny one at last December for the Rapanui Shag Rock when that one was complete, but there was, I don't know, 25 people, and it was not, I mean, there was no school nearby and bits and pieces, so it was, I don't know, and it was just before
Weather
Christmas.
was harsh.
And weather was, it was dreadful, but this one could be, I mean, it's the end of it is 200 metres from a primary school, and the cycleway will feed kids to the primary school. And there's the potential there to actually have a good opening. And I just don't know how that gets organised these days. Transport don't really. Yeah. But I thought maybe if we as a board and the governance team were able to get involved in doing that, that would be really cool. I know the local community's really looking forward to not having to bike on Port Hills Road with 60k an hour buses, trucks.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. No, thanks, Sarah. I'm sure we'd all agree about the having celebration of that. Yep. Tim?
Thank you. Just got lots of wee things which are taking up a lot of time. I got approached by a guy. He has there are two flats on one side of the corner of Huranui Street and Worsley Road, and we made those improvements there when we did the Hunhei lights. And he said he approached council because he mowed the lawns on the green out the front of the flats, one of which is his and his daughter lives there. I don't know what the other one is, who owns it. And he rang the council to say, well, you've increased the size of both sides of the intersection to make it safer. And he started mowing the lawn on both sides, the berm on both sides, because the council wasn't. But he said there's too much grass for his green bin. So he asked the council for a bigger green bin, and they said no, which seems really stupid. So anyway, so I'll follow that up. That's just kind of happened. I went and saw him. I just thought I would. Long Acre, which is further along, which on Worsley, which goes along, that's the new area there. And it's a really odd one because there's a green berm, or what you would think would be, it's not even a berm, it's for drainage or something, but no one's maintaining it, seems to be maintaining it. So I think it's been lost between groups and council, and the woman that's doing it and some other of her friends, she actually said they thought I was working for the council. So I'm going to go and see her next week just to try and clarify what's happening there. Pardon?
Do you not want
Well, yeah. Working against the council.
Yeah. Oh, I could give her a $5, I suppose, but you know. Now on the other side of Murray Ainsley Hill is Lucas Lane, and Lucas Lane after the earthquake was terraced, And the gentleman who I went and saw, who owns the land at the very top. So if you drove up to see the children's home at the top, he owns all the land left of that and all the way around. And so he gave up land for them to terrace it. But the deal was that they actually need to be maintained, and there's been no maintenance. And so they're just overflowing into the properties below. So I'll contact staff and we'll just, because that's kind of just happened. Mike Yardley emailed me about Tennyson Street, and I went back to him, and I enjoyed going back to him to say that we had a long discussion and over years with the community. We'd done really well, and I'm over the moon with what's happened. It could have been without. Don't hassle the good for the perfect. It's been great. Obviously, his thing in the paper wasn't shining of my reply. However, I do think it's been really, really positive, and I do think there's been a change there. So it's great to see cars slowing down, even though it is forced. And I was going to give them the example, but I did give, because someone else contacted me, a member of the public, and gave them the example of I saw the accident on the crossing by Sloane Terrace, and so I'm all for bumps. So glad it's being live streamed, although the two people watching will be over the moon. Following on from the your discussion about the trees, the urban forest, I'm meeting next week with a senior member of a group that meets with council and Sport Canterbury about sport parks, because as we all know, there's been a lot of grass grow, and they just feel that it's not being kept up with. But I said it's really easy to criticise from the outside. It's about working, so I'm going to meet them one-on-one next week. That's going to be interesting. I also had a couple of calls about the connection with Westmoreland and Hoonhay Lights, and I said that that's the initial plan to discuss. And again, I gave them because they were going on about the crossing having humps by O-rings, and again I gave them it's to start the journey, and so they calmed down a wee bit. But I also gave them the story of Sloane Terrace accident. So thank you. Gosh, I should really get paid for this, shouldn't I? And what you guys are? Jeez.
You should go professional, Tim.
And the last one is the Old Stone House are really excited to be connecting with Heritage Week, and I said absolutely fantastic. So they've made an initial contact with Jane. And I said that the important people, obviously, to our chair, and also put out a general thing to the community board, but especially to Lee and Kia, because they are the Cashmere representatives along with myself. So hopefully that'll all be happening. So, but that we have expanded as a community board, and so should really put it out to everybody. But they're planning on doing a kind of a more invited guests thing, tea in the morning or mid-morning, and then open to the public. And they'd like a couple of people when they do open it to the public to hang around. Got it. Tea and scones, can't say no to that really. But up there with the hanging. So yeah, and that's me.
Thanks, Stuart. So do we do anything from Lee?
Keep it very brief after that. I similarly as Roy, I attended the Matariki celebration at Cashmere Primary just before the term broke up. Lovely celebration. It was a concert, but they also did a ticky tour through all the classrooms because the pupils had done liked exhibits. So really great celebration by Gavin and the team there. Just very quickly, I got some discontentment last Saturday from people around football pitches being terrible, like you mentioned, Tim. I think it's the organisational responsibility mainland, I think, but the pitches were terrible last Saturday and we had a lot of discourse. Absolutely abysmal, so they shouldn't be in play. But I think that is mainland, not council. But just I've had a few funny comments about that one as well.
Just very briefly, Tom.
Yeah, Lee. Yeah, I could bring you along to the meeting on next week when I've kind of arranged it, if you want. But there seems to be a disconnect and misinformation, or not misinformation, just a disconnect between council, mainland, and some of the clubs. And I think we can probably assist there. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Sounds good. Okay, thanks, team. Good debate and good discussion tonight as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lee. And actually, I want to say that too. I really appreciate this meeting we've had tonight. I thought we've had lots of really thorough discussion and debate. I just enjoy working at this board. Couple more things from me. I'm going to food resilience next. I'm very glad it's not tonight, Mel, because I'm supposed to be opening Karakia for that. Safe speeds, I'm really excited about that as well. I'm concerned about basically as speeds broadly drop across the city, that habits change as well, and that enforcement is something that happens alongside that, because we already know that in a lot of our 30k streets we're getting just 45k's as the standard. What drivers actually drive. Went to the ANA meeting with Mel, and took Annie. Yes, she's in. Yeah. So yeah, very important to note that. But yeah, no, that's all from me, and I'll be there on Monday for the hangi. Cool. All right. Yeah, true. Thanks, Tim. All right, so we'll stand for karakia. It's all right. We should know this one by now. Sarah, if you finish it early, you don't get to leave early. We have. Seconding all emotions. That's what you do for me, Tim. Yeah. Unu here, ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātia, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua i te ara takata, koia rā e rongo, whakairia ake ki runga, kia tina. Tina, hui e, tai ki e. Manawatia matariki.